Hello and welcome to Podtoid. I'm CJ.
Maniac Brainiac winning the game. I'm the lyrical Jesse James.
I'm just Dan.
I'm very Charlotte.
Bass.
Okay.
How low can you go?
Wow. It's a good start to this show, everyone. This is episode 469. Nice. Today we have a good show. It's all hands on deck. It's our second to last show, and for this episode, it's going to be all about the community. We're going to be answering a bunch of your community questions. So that's going to be fun. I can't wait to see some of the answers you guys got. But before we get into any of that, I want to welcome everyone back. I hope you all enjoyed your week off, except Charlotte, you had 2 weeks off. And I have to ask, because you've been gone for that long, are you the person who's erecting all these monoliths around the world?
What?
You don't know about the monoliths?
No.
Oh.
No, I absolutely do not know about the monoliths.
Someone or someones are putting up these, I guess, chrome monoliths around the world. I just figured you might be the having 2 weeks off, plenty of time to travel the world, as you know everyone's doing right now, to erect monoliths.
CJ, I will take you to court. Lies and slander. Lies and slander.
Do you think I can't wait for it to just turn out to be like a supermarket or something.
It's gonna be that Simpsons angel. The monolith's gonna rise and then fly down to the new mall.
Or it's just like Elon Musk is getting extremely bored in like some sort of, I don't know. But he doesn't know. Elon Musk believes in COVID. He just doesn't believe it's that serious. So I doubt he's in self-imposed isolation or anything. But he could just be going mad because he has too much money.
I wish I was going mad because I had too much money. As opposed to just going mad because of crippling depression.
Of all the reasons you want to go mad, having too much money is like right there at the top.
I had a dream last night that needs to be quickly brought up, but not talked about because we've got a lot to get through. I dreamt that Nicholas Winding Refn made a Garfield movie.
Well, no, hold on. We have to have a discussion now.
And I got to basically watch the whole film over the course of the dream.
Okay.
And all I really need to point out about it is there was no John Arbuckle at all. Garfield was grey and he was a kitten. He wasn't normal, but he was grey and he was a kitten and he didn't talk. And it was just about a woman who was just trying to find out more about herself.
And where does Ryan Gosling fit into this film?
Oh, he wasn't in.
Damn, he should have been Garfield.
Maybe he was Garfield, but he had no lines. As I said, the only thing we have planned for this episode is answering your community questions. But before we do all that, I thought I'd share one last little news story here at the top of the show. There was a lot of good ones this week, including a guy who decided to rob a bank in a COVID mask, but then took it off his face because he didn't like wearing a mask. So just a smart gentleman there. But I like this one. And for this story, we're going to go to Italy, a country I hope to visit someday, where a man and his wife got into a big argument. Now, what the argument was about, the story doesn't say, but it was big enough that the man decided to go for a walk to cool his head off. And I know that my parents had these types of arguments in the past, so I get the idea behind it. However, whenever my mom or dad would go for a walk to cool off, it would be like around the block or maybe for a mile total. This guy decided he needs something a little bit longer and walked for 280 miles from his home in Como near the Swiss border to the town of Fano on the Adriatic coast. That is a long time to walk to cool off.
That's kind of
I've been there.
Yeah. That's kind of like that Forrest Gump scene, isn't it? Where he just goes for a run.
And he probably would have made it all the way to the southern tip of the country if he hadn't been stopped by Italian police at 2 a.m. for breaking curfew, a COVID curfew. He averaged about 40 miles a day and was given food by kind strangers because Lord knows he didn't bring any with him. Police did not believe his story at first, but then they looked it up and found that his wife reported him missing a week earlier. So he had been out there for longer than a week just walking to cool his head off. This does sound like a terrible Rodney Dangerfield punchline. My wife, she got so mad at me, I went for a walk, and 280 miles later, I was arrested by the police, getting no respect.
And what would Rodney Dangerfield say?
Oh, wait, that's what they would say. That's what his wife was saying the entire time.
Fine. We've got questions to answer, lots of them.
40 miles a day?
Yeah.
Who walks 40 miles a day?
This guy.
I have some questions. That's an impressive amount to walk in a day.
Maybe he's in really good shape.
Yeah, no shit.
I have to imagine that marriage is probably on shaky ground if this guy would walk 140 miles and then walk 140 miles more just to be the man who walked 280 miles to get away from his wife.
I was waiting for that.
Okay, let's get to questions.
I just hope when he havered safely.
Oh, Occams, I'm going to miss your jokes.
I won't.
This is Podtoid.
All right, let's get to questions. It's our last first show of the month, and that means for one last time, we're going to be opening up the goddamn mail.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Goddamn mail.
And we got a lot of questions this week. A lot about 2020, about the future, and some about the past as well. I'm going to try and ask these in an order that makes sense and flows. And we're going to start with one from Boxman, who wants to know that with Podtoid ending, what is a podcast they should start listening to? And Occams, you're always recommending podcasts to me, so I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you're after. But for me, it's been sort of trying to smile and get engaged in stories and just chuckle along with somebody, feel like I'm in the room. And for that podcast, I want to recommend something called Nerd Poker. It's a guy named Brian Posehn, who I'm sure a lot of folks know. He's a comedian of some renown. His buddies with like Patton Oswalt, guys like Blaine Capatch. And it's him and his friends. They play D&D together. And they've been playing D&D together for like 20 years. And so it's pretty great. There are about 5 years worth of episodes. They do have a Patreon. It's pretty cheap, and you get another probably 200 hours of like extra episodes, and they call them danger room scenarios, where they just do like your mercenary's hired to go do a thing and all. It's funny. It's clever. It's engaging. I laugh a lot, and I'm a big D&D nerd, so it's a good one. So I should give a shout out, recommend to Nerd Poker. That's a really good one.
Good choice. Charlotte, I know you're on another podcast.
I am. Should I mention it, or is that a bit nepotistic?
No, go right ahead. Yeah, it's the last 2 episodes. Do what you want.
Yeah, I'm in another podcast called Kane and Rinse, and we do a lot of hard work preparing every single episode. Like we do here as well, but we actually play an entire game per episode, and we talk about it for 2 to 3 hours. So it's pretty intense, but it's very rewarding. This year we've just recorded an episode on Devil May Cry 5. I've done episodes this year on Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami, and lots of others. Steep, quite a few different games of different genres. And yeah, we talk about all aspects of a game: the sound design, the art design, how it controls, the story. And yeah, so if you just want to have a deep dive into a single game in a 2 to 3 hour episode, then Kane and Rinse is definitely what you should go with.
I want to hear the episode on Steep, because I remember following that game for so long, waiting for it to come to Switch, and boy, did that never happen. Thanks, Ubisoft.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of negative on that episode. Honestly, this year I've been negative on a lot of episodes, unfortunately, but that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you replay a game, or you play a game and it's not quite what you expected, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm playing The Last of Us Remastered right now. God, I hate that game. Oh, hate it so much. The one podcast I can recommend is called 372 Pages We'll Never Get Back. It's hosted by Michael Nelson of Mystery Science Theater 3000 fame and Connor Lastoka, who was on Riff Tracks with Nelson. The podcast is about bad books, and it's named after how many pages are in Ready Player One, which was the first book they covered. Each book has several episodes dedicated to it. Some of the books they've covered include Armada, which was Ernest Cline's second book. Sean Penn's Bob Honey, Who Just Do Stuff. Midnight Sun was a recent book they covered. That's the retelling of Twilight from Edward's point of view. And they just started covering Ready Player 2. So now is the perfect time to jump in. They do suggest that you read along with them like a book club, but honestly, you can just listen and learn all you need to know about these books just from what they have to say. It's funny. It's informative. It's really good. I saw someone in the comments mention the podcast, How Did This Get Made? This is like a book companion to that podcast. So, yeah.
That sounds wicked. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah. If anything, just listen for the for the Ernest Cline episodes. God, he's a terrible writer. Ugh.
And How Did This Get Made is a very good podcast. I really enjoy that one.
Yeah, definitely. Dan, you have an answer for this?
I took this kind of literally, like something similar to Podtoid, so I kind of feel a bit dumb about that one now, but I recommend videogames.com, which is giantbomb.com, and checking out the Giant Bomb Cast and Giant Beast Cast. 2 weekly podcasts covering video game news, industry stuff, all that sort of thing. So I listen to it every week. It's great stuff.
All right, Chris, you owe me $5. He said Giant Bomb.
But the Bombcast is a great podcast. It really is.
A great. That's a long one too, right, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, they average like 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
Each week.
Unless it's, I'm a little out of touch with it, but when they do their like Game of the Year podcasts, that usually
those can sometimes go over 5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, like I used to listen to that back in, it must have been 2012, 2013, because I was living in Munich back then, and to be honest, the length put me off. But now that I've listened to so many 3-hour podcasts, I really need to get back into it because I don't think that would be a problem anymore.
Chris, let's wrap up with you. You got a recommendation?
I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't have a whole lot of time for it. But I think Hardcore Histories, if you've got the time for that, is a really good podcast. If you're not aware of it, it's this super, super in-depth history podcast. So it'll take like a war or something like that, and they'll literally go, it's one guy, he literally goes into so much detail of like every incident that led up to it and all the political machinations around it. And they're like, you know, they don't come out very often, but then when they come out, they're like these 3-6 hour episodes on. And if you're into history, like that's a really good resource. If you like wrestling, it's finished now, but there's a podcast online called the New Generation Project Podcast, and it's 3 guys from Leicester here in England, and it's a show where they basically look at every single WWE pay-per-view from like the mid-90s, and they break down how they came about and the matches and what happened and what was going on behind the scenes. So it's kind of like this really concise history of like one of the WWE's like most financially unsuccessful periods until, you know, 2019, 2020. Yeah. But that there's a lot of episodes of that, and that's worth listening to. And like, this is a really acquired taste, but like Jonathan Holmes and Jim Sterling and Conrad Zimmerman have a podcast called Boston's Favorite Son. And it's like an abstract comedy podcast, and it's really not for everyone, but I've listened to it a few times. I have actually got a real kick out of it.
We're going to go ahead and move on to the next question from Goofier Brute. What is one game from 2020 that you think deserves more attention? And Dan, I'm going to start with you.
You know, I'm going to go with Dark Pictures Anthology's Little Hope, just because it kind of came and went, which I think is a little disappointing in terms of like just the general discourse and chat around it. Because I personally think it's one of their best games from that series, and it's one of the best horror games I've played this year. And I don't know, I feel like it deserves a little more attention. I'm a little bit bummed that it kind of just came and went in terms of the general discourse.
I was going to say exactly the same. It's it really I think it's one of the best horror games Supermassive have ever done, and it's just, I don't know if it's going to be one that I remember for a really long time, but probably. Like it was really, really well scripted, just really well designed game, and I it's kind of disappointing that because Man of Medan sort of didn't really do all that well, that it's kind of going to be swept under the carpet, because even Man of Medan had its plus points. I was kind of surprised to look on Metacritic and see how badly reviewed it was in some places, because I had a pretty good time with it, and Little Hope is leagues better. So Yep, same answer.
Okay. Occams?
Yeah, I didn't have an answer for this, but I'll just go ahead and say, what's the game? A Little Hope? That one, yeah. And also, you go ahead, you guys, just check out the Biker Mice from Mars for Super Nintendo. That was a surprisingly competent little battle racer.
Nice.
And if you play one Super Nintendo title from 2020, make it Biker Mice from Mars.
Go ahead.
Chris, do you have an answer for this?
Yep, Hunt Down, coffee stains, super punchy, fast paced, uber violent platform shooter. I reviewed it earlier this year. I haven't stopped playing it since. Amazingly, it's like a Unity game, but it's like really top tier. Its visuals, its soundtrack, its voice work, its action are all like utterly compelling. I think one of the reasons a lot of people might not have played it is it's an Epic Games Store exclusive, but it's also on PS4 and Xbox One. But obviously, it'll hit Steam around March, I believe. Even though it's not my game of the year, it's the game I have played the most this year. It's not very long, but I just keep going back to it. Play it as loud as you fucking can. It's a real assault on the senses. And as I said in my review, do not sleep on Hunt Down. Seriously.
Good, a good recommendation there. I'm going to go with one I also reviewed earlier this year. It's Good Job, which is the Switch puzzle game that's set in an office. It's a wonderful palate cleanser to all the more epic games that you'll play in 2020 or that you'll play next year from this year. An absolute hoot to see the different ways you can solve each puzzle. I actually saw on Twitter this week somebody solve a package delivery puzzle by pulling all the recipients to the packages themselves instead of the other way around. Something I would have thought about. So if you have a Switch and you're looking for something, you get some holiday cash, go for Good Job. It's well worth it.
You really oversold that game like when you reviewed it, and I kind of feel ashamed that I haven't got around to it because it sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's Nintendo's released a few of these small third-party developer games. The Stretchers is another one. I think there's a third one that I can't remember, but it's they're kind of all these just like short, small puzzle games. And I think Good Job is the best of the bunch. And it just looks outstanding. It has some of my favorite art design of this year. Which is a question we'll get to here in a moment. Our next question is from Kanji Likes Boys. What mundane side effect of 2020 will have the biggest section in future textbooks? And the example they give is elbow bumping. Chris, let's start with you on this one.
This isn't mundane, but just let me get it out of my system.
Okay.
I think there's going to be an utter fascination in the future with people looking back at how many people on the planet were refusing to wear masks, and I think the textbooks will have all these statistics throughout of the year, and it will show all the graphs of how many people were getting infected and how the rates kept going up and how many people were dying. And I just think next to these graphs in these textbooks there'll be pictures of these mass crowds on beaches in Britain and the anti-mask protests happening and people saying, I want to get my hair cut and all that. And I just think in the far future, assuming the world's still spinning, it's going to be impossible for these people to understand how, with the numbers and the evidence and the consistently dismal year, I just don't think they'll ever understand why we weren't following the rules.
There is a picture of a protest in Southern California of a guy in full PPE gear with a sign that says COVID is a hoax that I have no doubt will be in textbooks in the future, in the far future, and forever as one of those pictures that just sums up everything about how stupid people are these days.
I had a lot of answers that were not mundane, but I have found a mundane one. Germany was it was already going towards being more credit card driven, but it's the opposite. It used to be the opposite of Sweden. Sweden, if you go on a bus in Sweden, you have to pay by card. You cannot pay with cash. Whereas in Germany, there was quite a few shops still where you cannot pay with card, and it's very cash-driven society. And I've used cash. I can count the number of times on my hands since March. So I think there's definitely been a move here towards more people using card because it's more hygienic. And also they've done things like contactless payment was an option before, but they've increased the limit so you don't have to touch the PIN the pin, what's it called? The pin machine.
Pin pad.
Yeah, pin pad. Unless you're paying more than about €60 for something. So you can easily do your week's shop and just pop your card on top and it'll get taken off your card. So that's been a big positive movement that I don't think is going to go backwards, because I think there was a section of society that was a little bit scared about moving towards cards. It's like, I've talked to somebody about this and they were like, yeah, but what if the bank's shut down and you've got no access to your money anymore? And it's like, I think that fear's kind of gone now because everybody's has to use card because it's more hygienic.
Yeah. You guys are right. It was tough to find something mundane. And so I don't know if my answer is mundane at all, but I'm going to go with stuffed animals and cardboard cutouts in sports stadiums. Of all the ridiculous things that we had this year, I 100% believe the video of a giant-ass teddy bear getting hit with a line drive and bouncing back into place is going to get at least a chapter in future textbooks.
Well, like all those Pikachus in those Korean baseball stadiums.
Yeah. Dan, what about you?
I guess in the context of video as well, as someone who works with video constantly, I think long term, and I'm talking like 50 to 100 years from now, a lot of these videos that are on the internet of these idiots are going to be around still. They're going to be in HD quality. A lot of people in the future will get to see the stupidity on hand. And that is going to be something.
Yeah, definitely. Occams, let's wrap up with you.
Yeah, there's New York public health and safety rules about you should fuck someone through a hole in the wall.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Oh, what a great callback.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Next, go ahead and move on to Cyclone Joker. What is the fondest gaming memory you had in 2020? Charlotte, let's start with you.
It's a tie between going through the entire Yakuza series. I'm probably going to finish 6 by the year's end, which was my original aim, and playing GTA 5 from start to finish. Because both of those were just massive experiences and like things that are sort of pivotal, sort of important moments in gaming history that I got to experience this year. So that was cool.
Nice. My fond memory is like a small one, but it was also kind of super impactful. It was getting same-sex married in Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town remake. It's a little thing, but I never played Stardew Valley long enough to get to the point where I got married. And like before this, the only memorable game moment in gaming that stuck with me was in Fable, the first time I was able to have gay sex. So that, that little marriage ceremony is probably like the fondest little memory I'll have of this year. And I pray to God the feature returns in Pioneers of Olive Town, because I already know the hunk I want to marry in that game. So yeah. Dan.
I already talked about mine actually previously on Podtoid, but gifting my old PlayStation 4 to my mom for the first time.
Right.
Geez, I don't know how I goofed that up, but gifting it to her for her birthday is what I meant to say. And just like getting phone calls from her like every other week about like what she's up to in Red Dead 2, and now more recently Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So that's been nice.
Occams, you got an answer for this?
Yeah, I got a kind of a three-way tie. Maneater, because that game was just the dumb fun I needed.
Good choice.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, because playing it felt like the memories I had of it as a child or a teenager, and that meant a lot to me. And then actually Yakuza's done currently. I did not know I could love Yakuza more than I already did, and in such a way. It's just such a fun game, and it's just the main character. He's just a good dude, and it's nice to have some good dudes in video games right now. So
I keep seeing people post to Twitter about just how awesome the protagonist is in that game, and like how all of the ancillary characters are also great as well. So I can't wait to play it.
Yeah, it's just a fantastic game. I cannot recommend it enough.
Chris, you got an answer for this?
Yeah, getting that utterly mortifying death threat during the summer. I think that's my most positive gaming memory.
That's 2020 for you, where a death threat is the most positive thing.
I guess really it's probably, I went to Canada again at the beginning of the year for the Rainbow Six Invitational, and it was a really good event. And I met some good people and had some weird, like, kind of introspection in the evenings, which was kind of really nice in a solitary way. But there's also something weird about it because that was literally kind of 2 weeks before everything kind of started to go, downhill with COVID. And I still remember coming home and the airport in Paris having like a smattering of people wearing masks in it and thinking like, maybe this is bigger than everyone thinks it's going to be. And then ironically, like by the next month, we weren't allowed to like leave our houses. So going to that trip to Canada was a weird kind of last hurrah of being outdoors and seeing the world before like lockdown kicked in.
Yeah. Well, at least you got to do that this year.
Yeah.
Thank God they held that early enough that you could.
Only just, like literally, if it had been 2 weeks later, they would have been cancelled because that's when they started cancelling like fighting game tournaments and all sorts.
Yeah. Torch wants to know, what is your favorite game that you played this year that was not from 2020? Saying Apex Legends would be cheap as I play that all the time. So I'm going to go with Deadly Premonition. I love that game. I also kind of hate it, but I love it more than I hate it. It's weird. It's unlike anything I've ever played. It's just, I'm just completely dumbfounded, baffled, and mesmerized by it. I have the sequel. I haven't started playing it yet. I know there was a lot of controversy with that one. I was just waiting for a better frame rate because I know that had to be fixed. Apparently, it's still not all that good, but it's better than it was at launch. And really, outside of the games I played this year for features like my piece on Fragile Dreams or Epic Mickey, I didn't play too many old games this year outside of, these few ones, and then also The Last of Us Remastered, which again, I'm fucking hating so far. So yeah, Deadly Premonition for me. Occams, what's your answer on this?
Yeah, it's gonna be Biker Mice from Mars.
I knew it. Chris.
It's not even that old, but it's Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. It took me like a really long time to get around to it, and I literally finished it just last week. But I had a really good time with it. I thought it's like a nice bite-sized take on the Symphony of the Night deal without kind of being too long-winded or too expansive about it. It's got cool music, cool bosses, the exploration, it's quite addictive, and the lead character Miriam's like a total sweetheart. I really hope that that Bloodstained is kind of a franchise that kind of expands upon itself going forward.
I think it will. I think this one did well enough, and unlike some of the other Kickstarter games, Mighty Number 9 proved itself to be popular to the fan base that supported it. So I would not be surprised if we see another Bloodstained announced in the next 2 years. Dan, you have an answer for this?
Similar to Moy's, mine's not really old, but Death Stranding was what I went back to this year, because after we wrapped up the video review, I kind of slept on it and didn't get back to it until recently. Started a new game, beat it last week. It's a game that'll stick with me for a while, so...
Okay. And Charlotte, which Yakuza or Grand Theft Auto title is your answer for this?
Actually, to be honest, even though they are my fondest gaming memories, I'd have to say for the all-rounded experience, it would have to be Ring Fit, because I've put so much time and effort into that game, and it's actually starting to pay off. Nice. And that's such a good feeling. And also because, I got really, really fit, and then I had a really tough time, maybe about a year ago, and I went backwards a little bit, and I can feel it coming back. So that's really, I wouldn't say it's a fond memory because, panting on the floor is not a fond memory, but in terms of for what I'm getting out of it, it's probably the best investment I've ever made with games for a long time, at least.
Yeah, it's definitely worthwhile to anyone who wants to just be a little bit more active in their life. If you can find it.
Dan, does your dog have an opinion on whether panting on the floor is a bad memory? Or...
You know what? He's actually super quiet. Doesn't pant or anything or bark. So probably not, no.
Meanderbot wants to know, what was your favorite art direction in a game this year? And Occams, let's start with you.
I had trouble with this question because I guess a lot of the games I played had lovely art directions, but I guess when I think of this question, I think of things like Gris, Chris,
Grease.
Yeah, something like a little different than I guess what would be something considered just pretty, but stylized. I didn't play a lot of stylized type games, but in trying to find an answer for this, I guess I really loved what they did with the Final Fantasy VII remake and bringing those essentially those pre-rendered static scenes to life.
Right.
And little details, flowers. There was a stained glass window over in the orphanage, and Aerith's mom's house. That whole with the kind of surrounding with the pond and everything, and the backdrop of this the Shinra the power plant behind it and everything. It was really beautiful, and it felt very the world felt very lived in. And it felt very alive, and I thought the little details they added really made it for me. So I guess that's my answer. I do wish I had a better one in terms of art direction, but there you go.
I think that's cool. I remember Square put out a really nice picture. I think it was Square that was like Cloud holding hands with his PS1 like sprite, which was just like a really cute kind of, they're the same character, but look at this incredible difference between the two like designs. And I think that was like a really kind of a gorgeous game. And Final Fantasy VII's such like a game that's based on such passion that I think it's really cool that they just recreated that world in a way that just didn't make everyone really angry, you know.
Yeah. Plus, pointing out Aerith's house. Oh god, it's the most beautiful point in that entire game.
It's like this little bubble of paradise in a world of like garbage, and it's just very, very. It felt very. I smiled a lot when I first went there.
Yeah, as did I. Chris, you got an answer for this?
It's pretty obvious. It's Streets of Rage 4. Those character models, the hand-drawn animation, like we had to wait a long time for it, but you know it paid off. The designs of the new characters, Cherry and Estelle in particular, who just look fucking amazing. The reimagining of like some of the old villains that returned, middle-aged Spread Axel. But like it still keeps the grungy neon look of those old games. Like what a beautiful fucking game.
I always enjoyed creative over realistic in terms of art direction. So, you know, while I can sit here and point out how beautiful games like Ghost of Tsushima or the Final Fantasy VII Remake or Miles Morales are, all my favorite looks of the year include games like Good Job, Paper Mario, The Origami King, If Found, very beautiful, very great art. But most of all, Paradise Killer. I think that's another title that a lot of people are gonna forget about that came and went in when it came out in September. It's one of the slickest looking games of the year, and if you are looking for something to get to, if there's ever a drought for any of these consoles, especially if you own an Xbox, and you are looking for something to play. Go back and pick up Paradise Killer. I think it's around like $15, but you could probably get it on sale. It's great. It's well worth it. Play the damn game.
Those characters are sublime as well.
Absolutely, just so good, and the voice acting and the design of the world. I love it so much. Dan,
it feels a little bit cheating to say this because technically it's not. Technically, it is, but it isn't. The Demon's Souls remake. I think Blue Point did an incredible job taking that game from 2009 and just expanding on that art style and adding to that atmosphere, restoring the game the way they did. Like I kind of went in expecting like high fantasy, dragons, armor, all that sort of stuff, but I did not expect like the nightmare fuel as well of just some of the later things you fight and discover in that game.
Yeah.
And what really is compelling me to keep playing it despite dying constantly is just seeing more of that world. I don't know the specific level names, but I just remember the numbers. Stuff like getting lost in the tunnels of 2-2, and then finally like finding this glowing end of this tunnel and being like, that has to be the boss fight, and seeing the flame lurker for the first time.
Yeah.
Things like that are going to stand out to me. Like when I think back on this console launch and stuff and like what felt like the most like next gen game and stuff like that. That game looked absolutely incredible, both in terms of like realism and just a genuine art style to it.
Now you didn't play the original Demon's Souls, right, on the PS3?
I did, but it may as well have not been like, I may as well have not. I played it. Funny enough, I got it as a gift around launch when that game came out in 2009, and I'm pretty sure I got to the Tower Knight, died a bunch, at least from what I'm seeing on my trophy data, and then gave up. So,
okay. Because I was actually kind of surprised that you went with that, because I know that the art direction is like the major point of contention with a lot of.
Yeah.
Well, we know how bad Souls fans can be, but yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well, they changed up the design of certain enemies that some people just aren't happy with. Personally, I think it all looks incredibly impressive. So, and I went back and tried it out, Demon Souls, on the PS3 again, just to like confirm like what I think about it and stuff. And yeah, I think it's a huge improvement. Personally, I think it's a huge improvement. I think the add level of detail and just some of the stuff they've done to the environments is just incredible.
all right. Good
What are you
answer.
going to play next? Like from the Souls? Are you going to play them in order?
Yeah, I plan on doing by release order after this. So I'm going to go into Dark Souls and then they're onward. But
I-
probably not anytime soon. I plan on spacing them out so I don't completely wear myself out.
Yeah. If you like the creature design, I cannot wait to hear what you think of Bloodborne.
That's literally I've heard people tell me, like, I've had 4 or 5 different people now tell me that when I've brought up the art design of Demon Souls, and they're all very excited to see what else I do that. So
Yep.
Everyone loves Bloodborne.
As they should.
All right, let's get away from games for a second with Jedder Mars. Can you name one positive experience that you've had this year? So something outside of gaming that was, in a terrible year like 2020 that was good. And Chris, your positive experiences are few and far in between for you. So let's go with you.
Yeah, there's not been many, understandably. I think there hasn't been for anyone. That's not, you don't have to break out the fucking violins for me. That's just the way it's been this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do think one kind of positive I was thinking about the other day was not seeing a lot of my family and like IRL friends, I think has more solidified my friendships with people online. So I've met a few new friends in the industry this year. I've connected with an author who I've respected for like many, many years, and it's cool to be in touch with that person. And like, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but like, perhaps best of all, I feel that our friendship, CJ, has really solidified. Like, you've gone some way to keep me both sane and on track, both as a writer and as a human being this year. And I kind of think that not seeing a lot of my real life friends has helped me to connect better with my kind of online community of friends. So that's kind of a positive that's come out of this year.
A lot of this year has been absolutely terrible because of obvious reasons, and also the summer was a bit of a stressful time for various reasons. But a lot of good has happened as well. My living situation is now a lot better, and my work situation is also miles better. So it's really odd feeling because I finally feel like I've got a foothold somewhere in Germany. Like I can see me having a career and I can see me living here long term, and I don't feel like an outsider anymore. But at the same time, everything's just going to shit. And it's like, if it had been any other year, this would have been the best year of my life. But to be honest, I think for a lot of people, this is the worst year they've experienced in a very long time. And it's the same for me. It's very hard to take joy in things at the moment, unfortunately. But just keeping on. I've made a lot of positive changes, like my Ring Fit and my fitness and eating a lot better. So just keeping going. It's okay.
Do you know what I think your most positive change has been this year, Charlotte? You're not on Twitter anymore.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I can't say I miss it, to be honest. It's a shame because I don't have the easy connections to people anymore. But to be honest, it's like a lot of you guys and a handful of other people, and that's it. Yeah, a lot of the rest of it was just stuff that was making me more depressed and stuff that was, putting me at risk of getting into trouble with internet people who, I don't know. There's some not very nice people on the internet, let's just put it that way. And
What?
so I think I'm better just leaving Twitter to one side for now.
Oh, I can't wait till I can leave Twitter. Oh, that'll be such a good day. It'll be better than the day I left Facebook. Occams, you got an answer for this?
Yeah. It's been a combination of things. Long walks. That's been really good. Appreciating them a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes with headphones, sometimes without. Soup. You ever just do homemade soup? That shit's crazy. It's really good. That's fun.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And then really, I think the biggest thing for me, and it took me a minute to get there, but I think the biggest thing for me is I've really gone back and done a deep dive on the Biker Mice from Mars catalog. And it's
Jesus.
just really been kind of a revelation. Yeah, it's just really affected me in a really positive way.
Aw, that's touching to hear that Biker Mice from Mars can have such a positive influence on your life. My answer is also revolved around stuff I've watched. I like that this year I've been able to go back and see all of the classic films I had missed in my lifetime for so long. Stuff like Citizen Kane, Clute. Oh shit! What was the first one I watched?
Cabaret.
Thank you, Cabaret. Seven Samurai. Finally seeing all these Kurosawa films, seeing the Studio Ghibli films. I got HBO Max, and it's just been a whirlwind of just wonderful old movies that I've missed out for so long, and I can't wait to continue that into next year. So, and Dan, wrap up this question with you.
Yeah, sure. Mine's still, it's kind of video game related, so it's a tiny bit like cheating, but and it's also nepotism, so that's kind of extra awful. But getting a friend like I did here at Destructoid to help out with video reviews, and him being like genuinely excited about it, and me being like, yeah, I used to be that too.
Dan,
but no,
bringing
real
that
talk.
tea.
Yeah, no, real talk though. Having that help has been nice, especially with the console launch stuff. That's been great. So I've been excited about that and happy about that, and kind of reflecting on that of like, yeah, hey, that's been cool. Nepotism, isn't that wonderful? Being on the other side of it.
Your videos have been really good as well. I've said that before, but it's worth reiterating.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Welsh Metal Hippie would like to know, what wonderful and exciting activities and events are you looking forward to after COVID? First and foremost, for me, it's going to the movies. I can't wait to sit in a theater again with a bucket of quickly cooling popcorn, a soda that's way too big for a 2-hour film, and a box of Reese's Pieces. I just close my eyes and picture myself there right now.
I thought about you when they announced that Warner Brothers was going to like dual release all their films in theaters and on HBO Max, because I know you and I have maybe differing opinions on that the Godzilla movies of late, but
Yes.
They are really, really great like theater experiences, and I cannot wait to be able to do that again.
Yeah, I don't know if my local theater will be playing any movies, because who knows if they'll be open or anything. They're playing The Croods 2 right now, so hopefully by the time April arrives or March, whenever that's supposed to release, they'll be there. That'll be one I'll go to the theaters for, but I'll do it on a Wednesday afternoon when there's no one else there, so I'm the only one in the theater. But yeah, no, I can't wait to go to movies again. And then also, like, I was supposed to start traveling the world this year, and now I have had to put that on hold. So I'm very much looking forward to starting that either next year or the year after. Just getting out to seeing Ireland and the UK, going to France, going to Japan. Those are all places I'm going to go. Just having to have delayed that was an unfortunate side effect of COVID. So. Chris, you have an answer for this?
Yeah, it's just going to be going to like shows again, like music and wrestling, and I really miss trekking out to Comic Cons and doing things like EGX and those kind of shows. But like most of all, I really miss my sister. Me and my sister are like really tight. We're really good friends, and I haven't seen her. And some of my out of town friends I literally haven't seen since last year, since before Christmas, before we knew that like lockdowns were going to be a thing. So there's some people who I haven't seen. I don't really do video calls, so there's some people I haven't seen the faces of for like 14 months now, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing those people again. But I'm also like, I'm not leaping out the door and onto trains the split second I get the opportunity. I'm quite willing to hang back until things are definitely like clear.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna wear a mask throughout 2021
for sure. Yeah.
Charlotte, do you have an answer for this?
Yeah, it took this year to realize that actually I'm not super like I've got to emphasize I take COVID very seriously. I ask myself pretty much every time I go out of the house, do I need to go out and do this? So I'm not like running around like doing as much as I can, but at the same time, this has made me realize I'm not happy if I'm just sat at home playing games or watching Netflix. I need to go out and do stuff for my own sanity. So I'm missing going to restaurants because I'm really into cooking and the art of food. I'm really missing going to the cinema, really missing, I really wanted to do a lot more traveling. Like, there's going to be so many holidays planned for after we've been vaccinated. I haven't seen the people who I go to speedrunning events with for a really, really long time. Just all sorts. Like, I wanted to go to a theme park in the summer. Like, there's a theme park not too far from here, and that's been put off for obvious reasons. There's just like so many different things we could do outside before, and I just really, really want to do them again, because I do find that I appreciate gaming and reading and all those inside hobbies more when I can get outside and do other things.
Definitely. 100% agree. Dan, you have an answer for this?
Yeah, I've always had this plan in my head of like, I'm gonna do a camera, I'm gonna do some gear, some lav mics, and I'm gonna hit up conventions, and I always put it off for whatever reason. And I feel like this year is like the year that like reinforced it in my head of like, you really should probably just start on that. So I think once people are vaccinated, I think is going to be the starting point for me. Like, once vaccinations are a thing, I'm not going by like when Pats is being like, yeah, we're gonna do a convention this year, promise.
Right.
No thanks. I'll wait. But once like people are vaccinated and whatnot, I'm gonna have that camera gear. I'm gonna have those mics ready. I'm gonna fucking be emailing people, and I'm gonna try and get some interviews done. And I'm genuinely looking forward to that for a lot of the same reasons that CJ and Chris brought up, basically.
Nice. Occams?
Yeah, it's just a combination of what everyone said, really. I miss going to the movie theaters. I really miss going out to eat and having that dining experience. I miss my family very much. My parents are a bit older than your average bear, and have gotten older a lot more in this past year.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to see them for a while now, and I miss them very much, and wouldn't dare travel to visit them right now, despite how much I would like to. And then just little things, not having to wear a mask outside, and that's probably the smallest one, but it would be nice. Even when I have days when my beard doesn't look very good, or it's nice to cover up, but just little things like that. But just the simple pleasure of not having to worry about a pandemic.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't wait to get to those days again.
Yeah.
I do really want to come and visit you, Occams, like when things get back to normal. Like, I'd really like to fucking come and visit.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to see like if his house is actually made of flesh.
And bone.
Yeah, the skin lamps and everything.
It's a work in
Like,
progress.
you get to the house and from the outside you can tell it's just the one from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah.
Ricky Namero wants to know, how did a year without Marvel movies feel to you? I think I know Charlotte's answer to this one.
I'd say Marvel is probably the word I've used the least out of all of the words in the English language this year, probably.
Someone had a good reply to this in the comments that just said Marvel-less, which is a great play on words right there. Chris, you and I go to superhero films. What has it been like for you without having any Marvel movies?
It's been really funny because in theory it'd be like terrible because I'm a huge fan of the MCU. But in reality, it's weird because Avengers Endgame provided such solid closure to like all of those movies that I've been really cool with not having a Marvel movie, because it kind of made it feel like an off season.
Mm-hmm.
Like it almost gives Endgame tighter closure. You had all of those fantastic movies, and then you had Infinity War, and then you had Endgame, which was like brought them all to an end. And now we've kind of got the break before they move into kind of a new storyline. So I actually think it's in the long run going to be beneficial for the franchise. I think it's going to make people thirstier for a new run of movies than they might have been if they just gone straight into them like within the next 12 months. But just bringing up this year and Marvel, I just want to point out something I keep thinking. If Endgame had been this year, we would have seen Infinity War and we still wouldn't have seen Endgame. Like, it would have been delayed. And right now, we still wouldn't have seen the sequel to Infinity War, which would have just been, and had to avoid people leaking the spoilers. And that would have just been like unbearable.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't even thought about that. The only thing I've seen people bring up is, imagine if the final season of Game of Thrones was this year instead of last year, and how terrible that would have been.
Right. There's been
yeah.
quite a few things that just squeezed in before production stopped. In place of Marvel, obviously, briefly, I rewatched all the Rambo movies this year, which were mostly entertaining. And then I dived straight into Fast and Furious, which I just want to mention because holy shit, I'm enjoying those movies way more than you think I would. If you haven't seen those Fast and Furious films, like turn your brain off and give them a whirl, brah.
If you track like from the very first movie to the most recent one, like the meteoric rise of stakes and action, it is so impressive.
And the way that every episode, the characters, with each film, the characters become more and more like just Marvel heroes in terms of what they can do and what they can take. They're all expert shots with guns. They're all black belts in MMA. Like
they can punch through walls. Like it's something like a dude with bat wings. I just know it.
And then the Rock appears.
Yeah.
Else.
He looks like a tank. There's a scene in Fast 4. Where Vin Diesel's character Dom is told that someone's been like killed in like they were run off the road and then shot, and he goes to the location where it happened, and just standing in the location is able to piece together the entire incident in his mind and like see it play out before
My absolute favorite is anytime the Dom and the Rock's character fight, to watch those two like compared to each other. Because the Rock is he literally ripped the gate off of his house to get out at one point because he had to go shoot a thing, and he tore the gate, like actually tore the gate out of the brick wall. And the Vin Diesel, while a large man, sort of has like permanent dad body. To posit the idea that these two are somehow like physically equal is hilarious to me.
Chris Carter wants to know, has anyone on staff ever played Magic the Gathering? That's a no from me.
No.
I played it a couple of times, and I'll tell you what happened. I purposefully didn't follow it up because I could see the rabbit hole that was about to consume all my time and all my money. So I was almost like, you can either back out now and save yourself a fortune, or you can become a Magic the Gathering player and lose it all. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I almost, whilst I thought it kind of looked cool, I decided to just like play Hearthstone instead for a while, because I could just play that for free and I wouldn't be tempted to just buy, decks and stuff like that.
Okay. I've got a sneaking suspicion this might have been aimed towards me, given that I was DMing him for advice. I fell down that rabbit hole. I tripped and fell and did not turn back. I've been dabbling in it. I've been playing Magic the Gathering Arena, which is like their digital card game equivalent. I have yet to win a single game against an actual human opponent, but I'm keeping at it. I really like the art style of the cards. I don't like how expensive it is, especially for like stuff like the Walking Dead tie-in stuff like that. Kind of grossed me out a little bit, and I turned off from that. But I'm enjoying it. I'm hopeful that once people once again are vaccinated, I will then go to an in-store event or try out like Friday Night Magic at my local shop or something like that. So yeah, that came from being a little bit tired on video games this year and deciding I wanted to try something else, and I fell down that hole.
All right.
And Chris Carter's been very helpful. Oh, thank you.
Occams?
Yeah, well, two things actually. One, going back to that Marvel one, I haven't missed any of the Marvel movies because I've been all about that Snyder cut, baby.
Jesus.
Going to the Magic cards. Yeah, so I did play. I remember buying packs in beta at our local shop when I was in 8th grade, and played it a little bit in high school. Got into it fairly heavily in college. Had a green-white sliver deck that was pretty fun. I was really into it more for the art, and it's a shame that the art books kind of suck because there's some art and just a lot of lore, which I never gave a shit about planeswalkers or whatever. I was always more about just the pretty pictures. But yeah, so Magic the Gathering was very fun for me for a time, but it is a rabbit hole and a very expensive one that apparently has only gotten more expensive as times went on.
I do love the artwork, especially when they brought over the Godzilla crossover. That looked wonderful.
That's where I fell down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I was at a card and comic shop recently, and I bought I guess it was the like Mecha Geigen card.
Mm-hmm.
The dude had it for like $5. I was like, fuck it, why not? That's cool. And so it's my little album now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Snitcher asked if we love them. Yes, we love all of our listeners, except for Torch. Celica Craze asked, you're accidentally recruited to Rainbow Six due to a clerical error. What unique but mostly useless skill are you bringing to the team? I don't have many useless skills or skills in general, but I can do that armpit fart sound with the palm of my hand and my eye socket. So that's what I'm bringing to the table. Chris, you play a lot of Rainbow Six. Is that going to get us killed?
Yeah, well, probably, but I guess it would work as a decoy.
Yeah.
So you could stand in a corridor doing that, and while everyone shoots you to fucking ribbons, I can like go in and defuse the bomb.
Oh, so I'm an eye farting pawn then.
Basically, yeah. Which is generally my role when I play. What I bring to the table is punctuality. Like, I can't run or climb ladders because my knees are shot to shit. I can't aim because my eyes don't work, and I'm too emotional to turn on my killer instinct. But if there's one thing that Frost, Cav, and Tachanka can all rely on, I will not be late to the breach.
So here's the thing. I'll be the guy who stands back and does like the cool replay video editing. So I can get the good camera shot of CJ trying to do his armpit thing and getting shot to ribbons. And I can get like, Moyes crying in the corner somewhere and Tachanka doing his thing and all that. It'll be great. I'll be the replay video editor.
Charlotte?
I think I have a couple of pretty good decoys up my sleeve. There is a song called Crab Rave by Noise Storm, I think. And it's a thing at our speedrunning events that there's a dance that you do to it where you sort of dance like a crab. And my rendition of the crab dance is one of the best you will ever see. It is mesmerizing. So I think that would be a good decoy. But also on the grosser end of the spectrum, my farts are pretty toxic. So I think I could use that as a decoy as well. I eat so many raw vegetables that it's just like almost knocks you out. Seriously.
Occams?
Yeah, I am the current reigning world champion for Biker Mice from Mars for Super Nintendo Entertainment. So hook that up, and instead of having a shootout, let's play some games, boys.
Oh,
hey, podcast rule of 3, Occams.
Derpunkle asks, of all the movies you talked about or wanted to talk about on the show, what is your favorite? Occams, you bring up movies all the time. Let's start with you.
Well, that's just like asking what your favorite movie is. Wow. My favorite movie is Dark Crystal, but that's pretty easy to answer. I'm gonna recommend one, 2020, and it's not like a rare one or anything. Actually, no, fuck it, I will recommend a somewhat rare one. Ikaru. What's his name? Seven Samurai fella.
Kurosawa.
There you go. Made a movie called Ikaru, which means to live. And it's the perfect goddamn movie to watch in 2020. You will cry at the end. You will feel like resolve. And it's a beautiful fucking film. Just watch post-war Kurosawa. It's gorgeous. Fucking great, man. Watch it. Ikaru. Ikiru.
If you have HBO Max, it is on there right now. So there's your chance to watch it.
I love the idea that this must be the first podcast ever where Kurosawa was referred to as Seven Samurai fella. I like that.
That's how my brain works. It's all just like loosely connected pop culture references that I have to like glam onto to then find some ancillary data, which is actually what I want to know.
Right. That's how my brain works as well. Chris, you got an answer?
Yeah, like Occam said, this is like a podcast in and of itself. Like, you could talk on it for hours. But for the sake of time, you all should watch The Thing, Sunset Boulevard, Strange Days, Lady Snowblood, and Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. And if you have time, reference Garfield.
I wish I had time for that.
Charlotte, do you have an answer on this one?
So taking the angle of stuff that was talked about on Podtoid, Parasite was a really good film, but the thing is, I don't think I want to watch it again this year. It's just not the right year for it. I really wish I'd been on the Detective Pikachu episode, because I think I watched it literally the night that you did that podcast on Detective Pikachu. And it's just, I wish I could go back to that time of like just having a joyful time at the cinema and like eating popcorn and being with my friends. And yeah, that was a lovely time. So I wish I wish I could go back to that time, and I'd say that's my fondest film-related memory to do with Podtoid.
I don't know if I've mentioned it on the show. My favorite movie is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But to bring up what you just talked about, Charlotte, the one thing that I am disappointed that COVID took away from us this year was being able to do our movie segment, Spoil Sport, because I loved doing that. I had a blast. I love talking Endgame with you, Chris. I loved Occam's when you and I just ripped Rise of Skywalker to shreds. Charlotte, I'm so glad that you pitched that we do Parasite, because I fucking love that movie, and it was so nice to finally have someone to talk about it with. And Dan, I think you and I did the last episode, last Spoil Sport feature with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Yeah.
So
Jesus.
it seems so long ago that we did that,
No.
but it was just in February. I've missed doing that, and so I love talking about all those films with you guys. But favorite film, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, 100%. Dan?
Ones that we've mentioned, like I'm pretty sure we mentioned this, but Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, because that is a comedy movie as far as I'm concerned. It's straight up. Go into the context of like, this is going to be a funny movie. You'll be in for a good time.
Oh, God, that was such a bad movie.
I have a t-shirt
right.
of it. I love that movie.
Pliskin wants to know which LucasArts game is the best. Dan, let's start with you on this one.
I'm going to go with Grim Fandango. I love that game.
Good, solid choice right there. The remaster is well worth picking up on whatever console or PC you have.
Oh, yeah.
Charlotte?
Like, that's a difficult question because I've barely played any of them in full, and I pretty disliked Day of the Tentacle quite heavily.
Mm-hmm.
Curse of Monkey Island was a really good game, but it's the only one I have a positive opinion of.
So it's the best one to you. There it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
There are so many LucasArts games to choose from here. If we're going with ones that they co-developed, I would go with Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader for the GameCube, which they co-developed with Factor 5. As an aside, the Rogue Squadron series really, really needs to make a comeback, given how much the Star Wars universe has expanded since 3 came out. But if we're looking at ones that were solely developed by LucasArts, I'm going to go with Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Devolver Digital recently asked which game would be really good to reboot, and I just think, hey, why not have the Hotline Miami people reboot Zombies Ate My Neighbors? So, yeah, those would be my answers.
You took my answer. Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Great
which
game.
Isn't just like in my top 3 SNES games. It's in like my top 20 of like all time. It's a fucking great game, and there was a half attempt to do something similar, wasn't there, with that really early 360 title? Was it called Monster Madness or something? And it had like a cheerleader and a hip hop guy. Do you remember? Like really early 360 days. I should have written the name down, but that was kind of an attempt to be like a spiritual successor, but it didn't really work out. But the fact that they haven't had a go at just doing another great. Imagine if they did Zombies Ate My Neighbors 2 or whatever, and it was not Ghoul Patrol, but like a straight sequel, and it looked like Streets of Rage 4 or something like that. But in the old point and click games, I've got a soft spot for Maniac Mansion and Sam & Max Hit the Road.
And I was going to say Grim Fandango, but damn, I didn't realize Zombies Ate My Neighbors was on the list too. That would probably be my choice. That's just such a. I'm looking over. I still have my copy, thankfully. It's such a great fucking game. That's a great one.
Still have your copy. I can't even imagine keeping an SNES game that long.
Well, let me tell you now.
Boxman, we're getting another question from them. What is the worst licensed game you have ever played? This is a nice take on what's the worst game you've played, going with what's the worst licensed game. Charlotte, let's start with you.
2 words: Simpsons skateboarding.
I also have a Simpsons game as my choice. Bart versus the Space Mutants.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Simpsons Wrestling, because Simpsons Wrestling had a lot of fun points to it, but Simpsons Skateboarding was like, it was a bad Simpsons game, it was a bad skateboarding game, and when you combine the two, it was like, worst thing ever, terrible, just oh my god, one of the worst games I've ever played.
100% agree with you there. It was. I remember renting that and returning it well before the 2 days were up, so that I could just get it out of the house and not have to play it anymore. So many bad Simpsons games that really there's you throw a dart at a board and chances are you'll land on a bad Simpsons game. But Bart versus the Space Mutants, I remember playing that way back when I was a kid and just and this was like before I had taste and just thinking this thing sucks. This sucks. Dan.
Sopranos Road to Respect for the PlayStation 2. You can just look up the cover of that game and you'll kind of know what you're in for, but playing it is like a whole other story. It gets even worse from there. Multiple enemies can attack you at once. It's just so bad. It's just one of the absolute worst licensed things I've ever played.
It's like, not only was no one asking for a Sopranos game, but could they make a game that's anything less like the TV series?
It was just awful. And the cover, how the fuck do you think that's a good looking cover for a game? It's something.
Occam's.
I had to go look at a list of licensed games because I couldn't remember. I've played many of them. Back in the day when movie rentals and game rentals were more of a thing, and kind of like you, CJ, I didn't really have taste. So it's like, oh, I like that movie or that thing, so I'll rent the game. Scrolling through the list, and I came across one, and I just got a cold chill down my back. It was the Crow City of Angels.
Oh, fuck. I remember that.
Yeah. It's hard to really describe. Like, anyone play Pit Fighter?
Yes.
And he just sort of very stiff. And the characters kind of move like the Canadians in South Park. When your game has like where it's a challenge to like move the character just left, right, up, down, it is you, and that's where you start. You made a shitty game, and the game is terrible. And I really, truly, because I don't think a lot of people know this one. I invite all of you to like look on YouTube videos of the Crow City of Angels for PlayStation, and really just see what they did, because they made a bad game.
I rented that for the Sega Saturn. It's really fucking awful. Yeah.
Did anyone else think that Occam's was just going to say Biker Mice from Mars again for this answer?
I was going, but Chris spooked me, so I'm not going to.
Chris, what's your answer on this one?
Well, like Occam's, if you've been playing video games for a long time, you've been through like a cavalcade of misery with like licensed games. THQ put out some fucking stinkers on the SNES. Ren and Stimpy Vidiots is awful. Family Dog is worse. Do you even remember that show?
No.
Occam's, do you remember Family Dog?
Jesus, yeah, barely, but yeah.
Like THQ were like the masters of these just really poor licensed titles. I see The Sopranos and I raise you The Shield on the PS2. a game so bad, I think a lot of territories didn't even get it. And I think it might have kind of been released incomplete as well. And nothing like the show in any way, shape, or form. And then, of course, there's just been a lot of really bad wrestling games. The worst, probably, Electronic Arts WCW Backstage Assault, which has to be seen to be believed. A game where not only do some of the wrestlers not have faces, but they failed to perform some of the most rudimentary maneuvers, such as standing and walking.
I'm going to have to find some videos of this now. Sweaty Dungus asks, which video game character would you like to give top 2? I'm going to go ahead and take care of this one and just say L Blaze from Virtua Fighter 5. Go ahead and keep that mask on, baby. I don't need to see your face for what I'm about to do to you. I just want to say real quick, Sega, for the love of God, please make a new Virtua Fighter game. Okay, Chris, who would you give top 2?
Ash Crimson from King of Fighters. Like, that guy's cute as fuck.
And look at that. We both chose people from fighting games, maybe because they're all in the best shape.
I think it's also because fighting games are just entirely built around rosters that are just meant to make the community thirsty as fuck.
Yeah, that's true. Bomberham wants to know, who is one person you'd like to meet before you or they die? Dan, let's start with you.
Mine's really boring and goes back to the whole like interviewing thing, but
Yep.
I guess Todd Howard would be like way up there. Because I've always had this idea of like printing off a bunch of his old Usenet posts of him just like telling people like, wait out for this game, and then it got delayed and like Daggerfall was supposed to come out in 1995, and he spent like 2.5 years telling people to like, well, wait for Daggerfall. And I'd like to ask him like what was going through his head during each of those delays and stuff like that.
For me, it's really easy. Dolly Parton. No one else on earth I'd rather meet than Dolly Parton. I know she's not Catholic, but when she dies, I think she should be canonized because she is just that nice of a person.
For sure.
Yeah. Charlotte.
Dolly Parton did actually flash through my head before you said it, because she's done a lot of good things with encouraging children to read, and just a genuinely lovely person. It's just, I don't think I have an answer for this one, though, because it just strikes me that, sorry to be a killjoy, but like celebrities are just normal people, and I feel like meeting them would take some of the mystery and the star quality away. So I don't think I'd particularly want to meet anyone.
That's true. I mean, there is the danger that I could meet Dolly Parton, who is like, you think is nice like Ellen in front of the camera, but then you find out is like Ellen behind the camera, just a terrible monster. So that's a risk I'm willing to take, though. Chris?
For the longest time, I wanted to meet Vince McMahon just because of like how wild a life he's lived and how fascinating a person he seemed in terms of just like how comic book he is. But like he's so fucking far gone now, and he's so far gone down the bad guy route that I couldn't even like be in a fucking room with him. So that, I'm not sure. I'd love to meet my two favorite women in the whole world, who are like Barbara Steele or Meiko Kaji, but they're kind of both in their 80s, and one of them lives in Japan, so it's probably pretty unlikely.
All right.
I had a nightmare once of Vince like calling me at 2 a.m. in the morning, yelling at me about something. I don't know what, and I had to like calm him. It was awful. That was a legit nightmare I had of being yelled at by Vince on the phone.
Right now, I'll tell you what, so I can give an answer, Occam's. I'd like to meet Occam's.
Okay. That's sweet. Occam's, what's your answer?
Well, now I have to say Chris Moyes.
You don't have to say Chris Moyes.
It was kind of a twofer. I know that's a little cheating, but bear with me. My very first thought was John Waters, because I would love just to talk, because I his film career, everything, yeah, but him as a person, I think it'd be so much fun.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then Keanu Reeves, because I feel like I could talk to Keanu Reeves about like kung fu films, and that's all we would talk about. And I wouldn't even be like, "Oh, you're Keanu Reeves," which I would, in my mind, I'd be like, "Holy fuck, it's Keanu Reeves." But I'm just like, "Hey, dude, what's your favorite kung fu movie?" And we could like talk about fight choreography and different films, and like, "Oh man, Drunken Master," all this stuff. So that would be fun for me too.
Nice. I think Keanu Reeves would be great to meet. We have just a few more questions left. Let's go ahead with Hester 2, who wanted to know, of all the Game of the Year candidates, and please don't limit yourself to the Game Award nominees, what would be the most interesting pair to have swapped developers? For my answer on this one, I would love to see, and I'm going to go with the two nominees who are nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards, but I would love to see a studio like Supergiant take on a game like The Last of Us Part 2. Like, what would that game be? What would it look like? Would it be as bleak? Would it be so goddamn long? Would it make me kill dogs still? Like, I want to see what Supergiant would do with a series like that. So that's my answer. Dan.
Similar developer name, but super massive. The folks from Little Hope and Dark Anthology. I would like to see their take on Resident Evil, and I would like to see Capcom's take on a Dark Anthology game. I'd want to swap these two around and be like, all right, you guys make a Resident Evil now, and you guys make a Dark Anthology game.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. I'd love to see a super massive Resident Evil game, what that would be like. Oh, shiver down my spine. Chris.
Well, if we're talking swapping developers, I'd like to see Nintendo's The Last of Us Part 2. and
Fucking ass. That's my answer.
and Neil Druckmann's Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Aw. You know, I was going to do something very similar, but not quite. I was going to do the developers of Doom Eternal making Animal Crossing, because that would be kind of like Happy Tree Friends in a way. Like sort of, you know, still the cute music, but it's kind of distorted, and like Blathers has half his face hanging off. That'd just be great.
And also, like, they've already established that Isabel loves Doom as well, like, in head canon. So, yeah.
Instead of Wisp showing up on your island every night, it's just one of those floating Doom heads that you have to shoot and blast away. Occam's, do you still want to answer, or did Chris just take it?
I mean, my thunder has been stolen. So
okay. Sorry.
No, that's such a great answer though. Like the mind wanders.
Zalno wants to know, what album or soundtrack do you think is the most Podtoid and why? So if you had to sum up our show in a single album, what would it be? Charlotte, I'm curious your answer on this one. Let's start with you.
I don't have a serious answer for this, so I'm going to be a bit trolly.
Okay.
And 1 second, I need to... what albums have Smash Mouth brought out?
Volume 1.
Whichever one had All Star on it.
Okay, so we're the Shrek soundtrack, everyone. We're the Shrek soundtrack.
Yeah, basically.
Dan?
Itsnay on the Hombre from The Offspring. They had the song called Me and My Old Lady, where in the end they just go off a cliff. So,
are you saying I'm old?
Dan teasing what next week's episode is going to be like. Just going off a cliff. Occam's.
Yeah, the Kinks, Village Green Preservation Society.
I love that album.
Very good.
And is there any particular why you chose that one?
I was that song kept popping in my head, and just thinking about all the things it says and all the references, and it sort of, I think it kind of encapsulates our personalities, the myriad of perspectives we have.
All right.
Oh, not Chris? Just because there's a couple of limeys on the podcast.
That would be reason number 2, I'm sure. Chris, you got an answer on this one?
Yeah, Smell the Glove by Spinal Tap.
Yeah, that's a good one. Very good.
That is. I put way too much thought into this, and I wanted to give like an honest and truthful and sappy answer. So I apologize, but I started thinking of albums that are fun and memorable, and kind of give each individual member a chance to shine of the band. And so I started looking at supergroups, which are bands that are made up of members from other bands, and I finally settled on Toto 4. It's got Rosanna, it's got Make Believe, it's got Africa. And then 4 of the band members each get a lead shot, or a shot at lead vocals and writing. So, just like the album, Podtoid was never as good as it was due to the work of one person, but because of the contributions of several. So, yeah, that's my cheesy, sappy ass answer.
That's awesome. I love that.
Toto 4 also is a great album, too. Yeah.
I haven't actually heard it. I'll check it out after the show.
Finally, Siddhartha is asking, remember the end of Animal House when they freeze frame and tell you their future? What would the freeze frame future text be for you guys? Dan, let's go ahead and start with you.
Still waiting for a new Altered Beast and playing Red Dead Redemption 2. And then it slow fades to a tombstone saying the exact same thing.
Occam's.
And they never made another Shadow Hearts.
Oh,
it also has to have the big sigh at the beginning of it that you just did.
And it's like me walking down the walking down the highway, like the end of the Hulk.
That piano theme, yeah.
Yeah.
Charlotte.
I think mine would be, and she never finished The Last of Us. I'm 10 minutes from the end, and I can't hack it, so... Yeah.
I actually had it written down. Note, whatever Charlotte says, make sure you correct it to she's never going to beat The Last of Us.
Well, I stole your thunder, didn't I?
Yes, you did. You beat me to the punch. Chris?
As for Chris, Well, he went on to pen the bestseller Chicken in a Barrel, My Life with Final Fight, the proceeds of which were then used to develop his business, Money Plane, a casino in the sky filled with the world's most dangerous people. After doing 8 years hard time for the theft of $6 million worth of DVD players, Chris now resides in San Fernando Valley with wife Charlize Theron and their 3 beautiful tomatoes.
Damn.
Oh,
That's the best goddamn answer right there.
Yeah.
the least believable part about that is you're somehow going to steal $6 million worth of DVD players in 2020. Just want to throw that out there.
Just lots of individual shoplifts.
It's like a Raiders of the Lost Ark warehouse full of DVD players.
All right. That's so many questions. This is like the longest episode we've done without a spoil sport attached to it. I do want to cover one last thing though before we go. We did have a few people asking about why the show is ending, and even if they said it wasn't their real question, I did want to keep it 100 with everyone. So, and I can't go into every reason why. But what I can say is this: as the producer and editor of the show, it is fully my decision to end Podtoid after next week's episode. When I envisioned bringing the show back at E3 2018, I knew that with like all the special projects I do here at Destructoid, I was going to give it like my full all. I was going to give it a year or two and not quit if it didn't take off right away. Because, you know, you see projects, you see websites that do that they introduce something and then poof, it's gone when it doesn't get 1 million views or whatever. We're nearing the 2-year mark with our last show next week. And for the past 2 months, I've kind of been assessing the show, my work with Destructoid and my life outside the site. I don't like to say this much, but you know, since I brought back Podtoid, I really haven't had a life. I have a full-time job in addition to Destructoid, and so I go to work from 8 to 5, and then usually I'd come home, but I've been working from home all year, so I just stay home at my desk, and I just continue working for Destructoid after that with reviewing games for the website, playing games for features, writing news, editing feature submissions from other writers, basically kind of giving all I can while also doing Podtoid. And then back in October, I came to the conclusion that I had to make a choice if I wanted to have kind of any resemblance of a life outside of my jobs. And so it was basically either drop all my other responsibilities and focus on Podtoid only or end the podcast. And it pains me to say this, but Podtoid never reached a level of listenership that would have made carrying it on the right choice over everything else I do for Destructoid. I really do wish it was the opposite. I wish this caught on and I could just be like, later suckers, and only do podcasting from now on, like how Steven Hansen was his last year at Destructoid. I wish that's what it was, but realistically, it just wouldn't be the right choice to make. So as I said, there are several reasons, and that's probably the main one. And I hope you guys understand. I hope our listeners understand. And I really want to thank them all for the wonderful questions we got this week. This has been the final installment of the Goddamn Mail.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Goddamn mail.
We are just about out of time. Occams, we have a community shout out this week?
We do. We have 2, actually. The first one is Chris, you posted a picture of an oil painting.
Yeah.
Of Mako Kaji, your friend, did for you.
Yeah.
That's stunning.
Thank you. It really is. It really is.
I mean, it just, I mean, it's almost photographic. It's gorgeous. And
he's amazingly talented.
Yeah, very much so. Very, very much so. And we also have a birthday shout out to Morty, user Morty. Happy birthday. And a final shout out, a special shout out from my heart and the podcast's heart to Satoshi Kishiwada and Kunikai Kunoshita, who were the director and producer of Bikermeister Mars for the Super
the most important of the shout outs there.
Mm-hmm.
That is it for this episode of Podtoid. On behalf of Charlotte, Chris, Dan, Occams, and myself, thank you for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for our final show, as we'll be wrapping up the year that was 2020 and talking about the games that we loved and maybe some we didn't love. Also, since this show has been on the air, our own Chris Moyse has proven himself to be an encyclopedia of Simpsons knowledge. And next week, we're going to put him on the spot to see just how much he knows with our first and last ever Simpsons trivia quiz.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's his punishment for never talking about the Rambo game on the show. So look forward to that. And while we may be ending, if you've just started listening and want to hear what the show is all about, we do have a back catalog of about 80 episodes available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or the Destructoid YouTube channel.